So how are you doing today, Jake?
Hey, doing well.
Doing well. I hear through the grapevine that you are making a little bit of a change in your coaching role at Solon.
Yeah, I announced this spring that I'm going to step down as the head coach of the high school program and take over our junior high girls program. Still hope to be involved in the high school program in any facet that the new head coach would like me to be involved in it. But just felt with the age of my kids, I have a 13-year-old and two 11-year-old twins that it was kind of time for me to step back from being that head coach, still be involved, but have a little more time to see some of their activities and be more involved in their life journeys.
Yeah, and middle school coaches don't get the credit that they deserve because they are kind of the starters, especially in small town Iowa. A lot of kids don't wrestle until they get to middle school, and all of a sudden you're having to teach them in a short amount of time. Usually, you get 9 meets a year, and that's it. So you don't have a lot of opportunities. So what are some of the things that well, I guess Solon, you're still looking for a new coach. What
We are
what
we're
are
still looking for a head coach and potentially another assistant coach. So if there's a package deal out there, we'd be interested in that. We've got a good foundation of girls wrestling here in Solon. I think we're entering year six. K-12, we're close to 100 girls that wrestle in this school district, including probably 25 to 30 on the high school team would be my estimate for this upcoming season, and probably 15 to 20 on the junior high level, and then a strong youth program too with our with
Wow.
our girls program.
Yeah, if the commute wouldn't kill me, I'd give you a shot. But no, um, just so everybody knows, I'm talking to Jake Munson from Solon. I met you through the IWCOA and through the Girls High School Athletic Union, the advisory board. Been really fun, serving on those things. I stepped down a little bit earlier just because it was. Clint had said he kind of wanted to have a few people step down early and have some new people come in, so it wasn't everybody all at once.
Yep.
Um, but would this be your last year IWCA also
Uh,
then?
no, as when I stepped down from head coach at Solon, I also stepped down as IWCOA girls president. We'll still obviously be a member and
Yep.
help at the convention and do whatever those people need me to do. Obviously, support the IWCOA always, but yeah, it was one of those when I stepped down as head coach. It was time to step down as president of the IWCOA as well.
Yeah. And so I really feel like IWCA since the girls came in and they kind of shook some things up on that whole IWCA boards and things. I really think a lot of good things have happened. What are some of the things that you think are good that maybe people don't know about IWCA?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting because when the girls got started, we really kind of mirrored what the boys were doing. And in fact, there's a lot of crossover between the boys and girls as they were helping us get established because a lot of us were new to IWCOA officer roles, right? Like
Yep.
we may have been members of IWCOA for years, but really had never been in a leadership position within IWCOA. So kind of that first year or two, we really just kind of followed similar to what the boys were doing. And then just really this last year, maybe the year before, we kind of branched off and started kind of doing things on our own and maybe kind of viewing things a little bit different than the boys, not better or worse, but just a little different. And so, yeah, I think some of the changes that the girls have made to just distinguish themselves from the boys side of IWCOA has been good.
Yeah. And the convention seems to be a little more rejuvenated. A lot more attendance is happening. There's those coaches coming on, college coaches coming on and doing some Zoom meetings and talking. So there's really some good benefits to joining the IWCA. I've enjoyed my time and I'm definitely gonna be back at the convention this year. It worked out this year. I wasn't able to go last year. Advisory committee on the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. That was really interesting getting started. Um, what are some of the things that you think we've accomplished really well there, and where do you think we're gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, that was a real honor to be able to serve as the Southeast Iowa representative on the advisory board as girls wrestling got sanctioned, and we met really with a fairly blank slate to try to kind of figure out what this sport was going to look like and kind of lay the foundation. And obviously the boys had a blueprint of how they did things. Um, but Aaron Gerlich was pretty open right from the beginning that there's some good things the boys are doing, but there might be some things that we want to do differently, and we have an opportunity to kind of reinvent how we're going to shape some of those items compared to the boys program or the boys side of it, boys union. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint. One thing I think we did really well, there was debate on weight classes, debate on, number of qualifiers, state dual tournaments been something that we've been working on, kind of in our tenure of doing that. And I think it's important for people to know too. We are, Troy, we're not the decision makers in this.
No.
We make some suggestions. And some of our suggestions come to fruition, and some of those suggestions did not come to fruition,
Yep.
whatever reason. And so, and I know sometimes that can be frustrating for you and I too, when other coaches approach and are like, "Hey, why did you guys do this?" It's like, "Hey, that wasn't our recommendation," but
Yep.
ultimately we're not the decision makers there. But we just get to help. We were fortunate enough to get to establish and suggest some of those initial policies and rules.
Yeah, and like you said, we don't always get to make those decisions. Actually bring the ideas of people that come, in our area, bring those to the forefront there. I know a lot of the things that maybe are coming in the future. State duels. It sounds like
Yep.
next year we'll have state duels, which is fantastic. We pushed for that earlier, but again, it's sometimes we want things. The wrestling community wants things right now, and sometimes
Yep.
we don't always understand the reasons behind it. One of the things, and we can talk about this, that I really wish we could have got accomplished, and maybe it will get accomplished in the next couple of years, is going to that 3 qualifiers to the 24. I really think that was something that I really tried to hang my hat on. I think it was important, but what's something that you can think of that maybe like to see in the next few years? Now that we are in our last year, but we'll not sit at another meeting, so we still
Yep.
can. We don't have to make decisions or not make decisions, but not bring forth anything. We can kind of talk about that now.
Yeah. Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head with the three qualifiers from each regional there. I think would have been a nice addition. I know there's talks of, well, maybe we're going to go to three classes. Um, my view was I would rather have seen us stay at two classes with three qualifiers from each regional versus three classes and two qualifiers from each regional. Um, but it is what it
Those
is,
are,
and
yep.
that'll be where it is for the year, I guess. And hopefully, the next tenure of people representing girls wrestling can persuade that to happen in another year. I do think that the girls union is good about evaluating each year and saying, okay, where do we need to make changes and what needs revision. So I'm hopeful that another year and a year of growth within girls wrestling, both in numbers and in just quality of wrestling. I mean, that's one thing that I've noticed, or noted over my 5 or 6 years, is just every year the bar just keeps raising and raising and raising, and that's great. It's like every year it's like, all right, yeah, I've got these girls coming in, they're gonna be great. Everyone's got great girls coming
Yeah.
in, and so the level of competition just is keeps getting higher and higher, which is great. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch some of those fourth, fifth, sixth graders wrestling. And I'm going to tell you, some of them, I don't know if I could wrestle some of the matches that they do. They're very skilled. They've learned the scrambling that us old guys really never learned and stuff. But
Oh,
man, they do such a good job at that age, and it's going to be really cool to watch girls wrestling in the next few years. And not that I love it right now, but
yeah.
boy, the level it just keeps going up every year. One of the big questions that we always get asked, and I love Coralville for the state tournament. I think it's awesome. I'm coming from a coaching and a wrestler standpoint, not a fan standpoint. But what's your thoughts on Coralville for the tournament?
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because Solon is 12 miles from the Extreme Arena. It's like the second closest venue we wrestle in all year. Um, so I love having it in Coralville. We also attend the Donnybrook in early December.
Hmm.
So our girls get some experience being there already. So I feel like we don't come in as wide-eyed as some other teams that maybe don't have the opportunity to wrestle there. For our girls, they're able to sleep in their own beds. I'm able to go home at night, after each daily session. And I personally really like the venue, and I also know, the organizers there that help run that, whether it's Luke or Kylie or some of those people. They're just really good to work with. And they're doing a lot of troubleshooting on the, while the meet's going on, that I think sometimes people don't even realize. But I just think, yeah, they've been great ambassadors to girls wrestling. The same time, if I lived over on the western side of the state, I'd maybe say, hey, I could probably get more fans, more students, if it was held in a more centrally located venue. So I understand that too, but I feel very fortunate being in Solon and 12, 13 miles away to have that as the home of the state tournament for now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd like that, to tell you the truth. I kind of like part of the adventure of
Yeah.
everybody traveling together, staying in the hotels together, going out to eat, those types of things. So I guess, you got a good point. You're sleeping in your bed. You're
Yeah,
very familiar with everything.
it's a
It's
trade-off
not.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's yeah. And again, I don't know if I'd want, like, if you took the same numbers and we went to what is it, Casey's? I don't even know what it's called now, Wells Fargo.
Yeah, Casey's, yeah.
You take those numbers and it's going to be a quiet arena. I've never liked watching wrestling in Wells Fargo, to tell you the truth, to be real honest with you. I feel
Yep.
removed from the thing because I grew up in vets, so I'd
Yep.
rather be right
So
on
have
top
I.
of it. Um, Solon has done very, very well the last few years. What's Solon got coming back?
Yeah, so we are returning 16 girls coming back to our team. We graduated a pretty decent senior class of five girls, all five letter winners, including two state qualifiers. Cara Vitapo was a number two ranked girl at 105 this last year, herniated a disc in the first round in her
Oh,
back, so had to injury default out. And then one of our captains, Olivia Bonema, was a 3-year qualifier and a match away from placing this last year, and just a good vocal leader for us. And then we have a couple other seniors that are moving on that were just great leaders, great high character girls. So those girls are definitely going to be missed. We returned three girls with state qualifier and state place winner experience. We have an eighth grade class coming in that we have pretty high hopes for. Our junior high team had 15 girls last year, including 10 eighth graders. All have
wow.
indicated to me they plan to wrestle. I think last year they were like 182 and 50 something, as a collective team. So some strong girls there. I don't think anybody that's going to just come in and dominate the sport right away, but girls that work hard, and we can definitely build around and develop as athletes. And I just feel like we've done a good job of creating a culture, and the girls that have been drawn to our program tend to be high character gals. So we deal with very little drama. The girls are all collaborative, helpful for each other, supportive of each other. It's really been, compared to talking to some other coaches that I think sometimes deal with a lot of those struggles, we've had a pretty smooth ride here at Solon. It's been very enjoyable. So,
Yeah. No, I've had similar experience with the girls that I've had, and I definitely have heard the stories from some other ones, and I'm thankful for what I have.
yeah.
Um, you got a big middle school class coming in this year, 10, you said.
Mhm.
What's the youth numbers looking like, and what are the middle school numbers for next year kind of looking like?
So yeah, so middle school girls, the seventh graders are yet to be determined. We'll have five or six that I know that have been wrestling in our youth club. But that'll be something that I'll work on is to really get down to that middle school and recruit. It helps. I have a seventh grade daughter this year, who's been involved in wrestling, who has a good network of friends, and just getting some of those girls to try the sport, I think is huge. And we can kind of talk about how I do that, and or how we at Solon we try to get so many girls to wrestle. Youth wise, we'll probably be K6, probably 50 plus girls on the K6 level. So our
Wow.
youth club, we run a separate youth club from the boys youth club. For us, it started when my daughters were younger and they wanted to give wrestling a try. So we went to the boys youth practice, and the girls were said, "Hey, we like this. We just don't like these 65 crazy boys running around." And so that was our first year that we'd had two girls wrestle on the boys team, back before it was sanctioned. This would have been 2018, 2019 season. And so I approached them to see if they would be interested in helping lead a girls wrestling club. And um, they said, sure. And so we started doing a night a week during the winter season. And we just had a lot of girls that at that youth level that signed up that come. We do 9 or 10 practices over the course of the season. They wrestle in our little Spartan Invitational in mid-January, and that's sort of the end of our local youth season from there. But we've had really good numbers with that. This summer we just got done this last week. We do a 3-day youth camp where all the high school girls are the counselors, the high school wrestlers, and they come, and we had, I think, 45 girls sign up for our youth camp, and it's 3 days and just some fundamentals of wrestling. We tie-dye Solon wrestling, girls wrestling t-shirts at the end. They're going to all wear them to school on Friday, and uh,
Nice.
just doing things like that. So yeah, we've got really good numbers. We've got some girls that wrestle pretty seriously in some clubs, and we've got a lot of girls that are just getting some fundamental mat time, which I think is key.
I think fundamental mat time makes so much difference. If you're, especially with you coming down to the middle school and you're giving them good solid fundamentals coming into the high school, man, how many times have we started with now with girls sanctioning a sophomore or junior that just comes out and
Yeah.
we have to teach them from the beginning, but they end up doing very well.
Yeah.
Now you start building them up from that level. That's going to be awesome. You
And they all
mentioned,
say, yeah, when I have girls like that, and I have one that came out as a junior who's wrestling at Luther this year as a
mhm,
freshman, and just when they're just like, man, I just wish I would have done this sooner, and
yep.
found sooner. So I think if we can get girls the opportunity to once they get out there and try it, our retention rate at Solon is probably 90% of girls that we get on the mat. We're going to keep at least through that middle school level, if not beyond. But the big challenge is getting them to initially come out and try it.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing something right because your numbers are fantastic for the, size of school that you are. Um, you're kind of on that 1A, 2A bubble this year. We'll have to see how all the co-ops fill in and fill out and stuff. But yeah, for being there, your numbers sound really good. I'd love to have those numbers. And it's just different areas, different challenges with the co-op that I'm in,
Yeah.
distance. And you guys are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Solon's always been a really strong wrestling area. Wrestling, they have tradition, which
Yeah.
probably doesn't hurt because you have moms and dad, or you have dads that wrestled and now they have daughters, and it's very acceptable now. From when I first started coaching girls, we don't hear those things. So that's great. You had mentioned you have some kids coming up. Uh,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about the family just a little bit?
So yeah, so my wife Stacy and I have been married for it'll be 20 years in February, February
Wow.
4th. So I haven't looked at the date on the state tournament, but might be it's usually hitting right around that time.
Yep.
So and then yeah, we have three children, a daughter Mabel who is 13 and seventh grader this year. And then we have 11-year-old twins, a boy girl set of twins, JJ and June. All three of them, participate in wrestling, but they also participate in a lot of other sports too. So Mabel's in volleyball right now. They do volleyball. They've played basketball. They all wrestle. Um, they all play softball or baseball. They'll go out for track. So we're just pretty busy all year with sports. They're involved in music as well. We're probably involved in too many things, to be honest. And that's part of the kind of stepping back a little bit for me is that, when I started coaching and I left my wife at home with three little kids on a Saturday, it was like, hey, sorry, good
Yep.
luck. I'll be home at 7 or 8, and now it's like, okay, this one's got a basketball tournament here. This one has a wrestling tournament there. And then there's a club volleyball tournament in a third location. It's like, all right, logistically, how is this even going to work? So, uh, but hopefully, we'll figure all that out. I still plan to, again to be involved in the high school girls, but just having a little more flexibility will be good for me. But yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna end up being somewhat of a spectator and a fan,
yeah, yeah, which I think
which
is good. Like, stepping down to the junior high is something I've thought about for a few years. It just happens to coincide with my oldest daughter kind of being there, but I've already told the assistant coach that I'll have for that a friend and a coaching colleague of mine that hey, I'll take one mat. You take the other. If my daughter's on one mat, on my mat, okay. If she's on your mat, great. It's probably going to be better if she's on your mat for our relationship. So I
I've
think that'll be just fine.
I've had a couple dad coaches on my, both Tatum's Jason coaches with me,
Yep.
and and Tatum and then Destiny's dad coaches with me also. Uh, what's your challenges as a dad coach? I know I'll just like I know with Jason sometimes he would just say, "I can't do this. You take her. I just
Yeah.
can't handle it right now." So I think it's great because you get to enjoy that sport with them, and you get to do all kinds of stuff. But there is some challenges to that line between dad and coach.
Yeah, I think for sure. And like I said, I've been their youth coach, and that's different than being like a junior high coach or even a high school coach. But yeah, I think my default would be to not be the lead coach within a corner with them. And then yeah, I've just learned I try to do this with all my athletes, but even more so with my own kids is after a match, giving some that cool down period, that kind of emotional reset, whether it's a win or a loss before we have any discussions involving wrestling. So
Yep.
um, I found that's beneficial, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do as a coach. I always tell my assistant coaches, hey, here's how we're going to do it, and then we're not going to give any instruction or feedback right as they're coming off the mat, other than just positive praise. And then I catch myself, and my assistant coaches are good about, hey, I thought we weren't doing that. It's like, yeah, we're not. Dang it. All right.
Yep. Yep, I've had to adjust that also because it seemed like with the guys, I would catch them as they came off the mat, and hey, we need to correct this,
Yep.
and this.
Yep.
And I found with the girls, it's somewhat best to just give them, come find me when you're ready.
Yes, exactly.
And that
Exactly.
seems to work out well. You did bring up something that I really, I'm in a smaller school district also, something that I think is super important that I hope we don't lose, multi-sport athletes and not just sports, but multi-activities, whether it's band, choir, anything,
Yeah.
plays. Solon, I'm sure you're dependent on having kids do multiple things. What's your thoughts on the, I guess specialization that it seems like our sports are coming to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of multi sport athletes, just in general, and not even sports, but just multi activity athletes. I always try to promote to my kids, or my wrestlers, get involved in activities that you're not the best at, that you're not a lead participant in, where you're just, something where you're invested, but you haven't invested so much that it becomes this all consuming item. So whether that's, hey, I'm going to join the choir, or I'm going to go out for the school musical, and I'm going to be a tree in the background. Um, I always think growing up, I was always going to be a wrestler, and that was just my primary sport. But went out for middle school basketball and started on the B team. It might be the most fun I ever had playing a sport, because I didn't feel any pressure in
Hmm.
basketball. I felt lots of pressure in wrestling because that's what I've spent all my time focusing on. And so, basketball was just a fun activity to play with my friends, and I think that's important for kids to have that. And then I just think it's good for kids to, if you're going to be a multi-sport athlete, I think the biggest benefit of being a multi-sport athlete is that you get to compete year round, right? And you're changing your focus in that, but you're always competing. If you're a volleyball player, you're competing in that. If you're running cross country, which I think is an awesome sport, you're competing there. Then you go into wrestling and you compete again. And then maybe you're playing soccer or track or golf. I try to promote to my high school girls. I would love to see all of them play, a spring sport. If you're running track, you're getting more explosive. If you're playing soccer, you're getting physical and you're getting a lot of run time. And if you're playing golf, and we have a few girls who do golf, just the mental aspect of golf. If
Yeah.
anybody who's before, I mean, you just learn some of that mentality and how to control your emotions and be able to lock in. So I think golf has value too. Um, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. And Solon's had a lot of great athletes, and some of our best athletes have been multi-sport athletes. Like I had the opportunity and privilege to coach Tyler Linderbaum when he was a high school heavyweight coming through Solon now, and is a Pro Bowl center for the Baltimore Ravens now. And he played football all fall, played basketball his freshman year, and then switched over to wrestling his sophomore year. Threw the discus, played golf, and was, the starting corner infielder on the baseball team. I mean, he just competed year round, and And I think sometimes people say, well, if I don't specialize, I'm not going to make it to the highest levels. It's like, no, you can make it to the highest levels,
And
but just compete.
you might do it without having repetitive injuries also,
Yes, yes.
because every sport hits things a little bit differently.
Yep.
Yeah, I think doing different things is so important also. And maybe that's just being an old guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. It's and
does
I think
Solon have?
everybody's different. So I mean, I think,
Yeah,
for some people that it's the one thing they love, and they're not burned out on it, and
yeah,
they're loving going to it every day and wrestling every day, then hey, more power to you. Like, it's not a one model fits all, but I do think that a lot of people kind of can benefit from a little more balance with that.
yeah. Are you in a split season? So middle school kids can do both basketball and wrestling.
Yes. Yep. Which is fantastic.
Yep.
That's one of the great reasons that it works for us. And actually, I tip my cap to the whole WAMAC conference, which is the conference Solon participates in. All of the WAMAC schools have a split season. All of them have a junior high girls wrestling team. So our junior high girls season mirrors our junior high boys season. The boys just wrestle from mid-October to winter break, and the girls pick up right after winter break and wrestle really through February.
Yeah, we're opposite, and or at least our conference is opposite, and we're I'm basically our middle school girls end up wrestling
Yeah,
their co-op
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's just how it is. Because everybody else went to first season, but it's hard to get those basketball people to get
yeah.
their schedule switched around. I understand it takes time, so I'm not super upset about it. Um, I want to continue on and let's get to know Jake Munson just a little bit better, and the family and things.
Sure.
So, do you have any family pets?
I do. I have one dog, Tex, who is a rescue dog from Texas. That's how he got his name. So he's 5 years old. He's a lab pointer mix, and he will go on point. He'll point pheasants, he'll point quail, but he's just as likely to point grasshoppers and butterflies. And he's gun shy, so he doesn't hunt at all. But he is a wonderful family dog. So he's been a good addition to our family.
A lot of times I'll ask the girls this, so I get some pretty crazy answers. If you could have any pet, domestic or, exotic, you could be the next Tiger King. What pet would you have?
That's a good question. Um, you know, I, Recently I've been kind of reading about these falconers that have
Oh,
falcons, and they like hunt with these birds. Not that I'm necessarily a big bird person, but I do think that's a pretty cool concept that you can launch a bird from your hand, and it comes back with a duck. And I saw a video where this giant eagle took down a deer, which I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't know that they could do that. So yeah, I would maybe go with some sort of bird of prey. Although I
mm.
would probably be scared of it. Like, I think that, and then you would bring one in, Troy, and I'd be like, oh man, yeah, never mind, change my mind. I'll take a turtle.
Yeah. My daughter, she's got basically a farm at her house, so I'm happy with just my dogs right now. But yeah, falcon that'd be kind of an interesting. That would be interesting to become a falconer. Maybe that's
Yeah,
your calling. Maybe that's what
yeah.
the world is calling you to be. Wrestling, we love food. Wrestlers are, because it's just part of the culture. Post weigh-in, I know I ate some really stupid things, but what are you having your girls? What are you telling the girls that we should eat at post weigh-in now?
Oh, that's yeah. That's a good question, and I say that I'm not gonna. I had an elite wrestler last year who made weight and was getting down early in the season, and really had to watch her weight going into an initial weigh-in, and then she had brought a Subway sandwich, which I am okay. A Subway sandwich is okay. She didn't have it all loaded down with oil and all that stuff. It was
Hmm.
a pretty basic sandwich, um, but she ate the full foot long
Ooh,
before warm-ups.
yeah.
Before it was a Thursday night tournament, and made it through about halfway through warm-ups, and started feeling sick, and made it through that first round, second round. She ended up feeling better as it went on. I always tell our girls, um, I don't want you eating something you've never eaten before, right? It has to be a food that you're comfortable eating. We'll do girls will do sandwiches a lot of times is something. We'll do like on Saturday tournaments, our parents pack a cooler. We have parents sign up. They'll bring, just turkey or ham and cheese sandwiches. Some fruit, yogurt is a good one for us. They'll have snacks like granola bars and those types of things. But I really don't want girls eating something that they don't normally put in their body. And then I tell them, just stay away from the concession stand. Like I don't,
Yeah.
even when you're done wrestling, bring enough food so that you're not going and getting nachos and popcorn and soda and the kind of things that are gonna not refuel you for the next day. And for the most part, our girls have been pretty good. We've had good captains that have really kind of led that and kind of sharing what they put in their coolers. And I have a handout that on just kind of some basic nutrition stuff and what to pack, the day of a meet and for weigh-ins and post weigh-ins. That it's a vast list that girls can kind of pick from.
I had a conversation with Joey Boyens from Ekin Nutrition, who does
Mhm.
Grandview
Yep.
and a bunch of those. And he had told me that those little Hawaiian slider buns
Yeah.
make the perfect between match sandwiches, like one slice of cheese, 2 ounces of meat, and one of those because it has a little bit more sugar in it. So it gives
Yep.
you that a little bit more. And then the other thing he said, don't overdo it on the proteins because your body, if you get too much protein, it'll switch it all to digesting and it'll take away from your muscles. So there's
Yeah.
just two tips that from other people I've talked to. I'll throw that out there to you and everybody else.
Well, I
My
tell you that those sliders are pretty good for coaches in between rounds of the tournament too sometimes. So
they're just a little small for me.
yeah, well, yeah, got to double them up.
So I have a guilty pleasure food, and it's ice cream. I absolutely love ice cream. I grew up on it. As to me, it should be its own separate food group. Do you have a guilty pleasure food?
Oh man, I am not what you'd call a picky eater by any means. Um, yeah, that's hard to say. People say, if you could eat one type of food the rest of your life, what would you eat? Um, and for me, it probably some sort of like Chinese food, Thai food. I like sushi. I do all of that stuff. Good tacos are tough to beat. A gyro. Yeah, I eat some kind of different kind of ethnic cuisines. Just in the last 5 years or so, or maybe even less than that, I've really gotten it. We have a Thai restaurant here in Solon. That's an offshoot of a top tier Thai restaurant in Iowa City, and so I've kind of gotten into eating more curry, which I didn't care for Indian curry, but found out that I really love Thai curry, which I don't recommend for our wrestlers. To eat pre-meet or post weigh-in, but yeah, I'd say anything along those lines are kind of where I tend to lean right now.
That sounds really good. Really like that. So for the family, if it's families going out to eat, where are we going?
Oh man, good question. Um, Well, Solon's the home of Big Grove, which is, a famous, brewery in Iowa. But I don't know, a lot of people don't know, but Big Grove, the original location of Big Grove is in Solon, Iowa, just on the corner of Main Street. And they have a really nice menu and obviously a really nice drink selection there. That's always a crowd pleaser. My kids will order, it's called the Dougie. It's a secret menu item, which is half mac and cheese, half tater tot casserole, and they
Oh,
mix them
wow.
together. It's not on the menu. You got to be a Solon regular to know about the Dougie. But yeah, we'll go there. Um, yeah, all my kids, it's been really nice. None of them are picky eaters, so they'll really eat anything. When they were little, I had told them that Munson was Norwegian for fish eater, so that if you're a true Munson, you'll eat fish. So
Uh-huh.
because of that, they're all like, look, Daddy, I'm eating fish. I'm a Munson. I'm a real Munson." And so I probably shouldn't have burned that on something so trivial as eating fish, but it's worked out because they'll go eat sushi or fish fry, anything like that. So yeah, really, I've got a family of good eaters. So
Nice. Vacation spots. Is there a favorite that you've gone to? Maybe you and your wife, maybe with the family also. I don't know. The favorite vacation spot so far.
yeah, so we just with our busy schedule, we always take a trip over spring break. The last few years, we've just done a VRBO in the Phoenix, Arizona area. We've done different VRBOs there, but always something that's a house with an in-ground pool and the kids swim, and we go do a lot of different activities there. My wife and I go to Vegas every summer with college friends, and that's always a good time. Um, and then I really like my brother was stationed in the military out in Northern California, and when we'd go visit him, we'd go spend a few days. My wife and I and my brother would go spend a few days in Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, which is just a beautiful area of the country. And so I really like South Lake Tahoe. I haven't been there in about 15 years, but that would be a bucket list place to get back to for me within the US. I go to Canada on a fishing trip every year. We're adding it up. I think I've been to Canada. I'm 43 years old, and I think I've been on 33 trips to Canada, fishing trips. I do a lot of fishing. So,
Wow. So Vegas, my brother taught school actually in Vegas when I was in
okay.
college. So are you a Fremont Street or are you a strip guy?
Oh, Fremont Street. It's not even close. I haven't been to the Strip in 2 or 3 years. Like Fremont is kind of the old school Vegas, and they've
Hmm.
kind of revised it. And part of it's I'm traveling with college buddies and their wives, so
Yeah.
Fremont Street tends to be more our scene as we're looking for cheaper gambling and just good fun time. So yeah, we stay at Circa, which is the new hotel down on Fremont. Always, it's got the giant stadium swim pool. So
Nice. Yeah, I loved Fremont Street. I even when he was out in Vegas, that was like the early to mid 90s and
oh
stuff.
yeah,
So that was before it was a little scary sometimes down there, but
yeah.
it's super nice with the canopy now and just a lot of stuff to do down there. So it's Vegas is a cool place and you can just go there and watch and never gamble and
Yeah,
have a
there's
fantastic
tons to do
time.
there. Yes.
Yeah, really love Vegas. Is you did mention a few places that you'd like to go. Is there a place that you'd like to maybe you and your wife just go together sometime?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because like I said, we're coming up on a 20-year anniversary. Um, yeah, we've kind of debated where to go. Yeah, I've never been to Hawaii. I've never been to Australia. Those would be places. I'd like to go to Northern Europe as well. She's traveled more than I have extensively that way. That's just in her youth, and then she and some friends. My wife's a big time runner and triathlete, and so she took a trip with friends this year to Portugal where they did it. It was like a running vacation where every day involved some sort of adventure run for 7 days. So she did that in May. So yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we'd probably go to Northern Europe or Australia.
That would be very cool. Um, I really shouldn't do this, but I binge a lot of TV shows. Do you have time, even with three kids and scheduled to watch much TV? Do you binge anything?
Now it's been a couple years since I've really like gotten into like deep into a show. Um, I watch a lot of what my kids watch, which has gotten better as they've gotten older, but they don't, this generation, they don't watch like TV shows the same way that we watch
Hmm.
TV shows. They watch a lot of YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of, my son's big into wrestling and big into fishing. So we watch a lot of wrestling YouTube and a lot of fishing YouTube. My wife and I'll turn something on Netflix. Um, we put kids to bed at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10, but no, nothing's really coming to mind. My kids are, they're getting old enough now that, we're starting to watch The Office and kind of revisit some of those shows that I really liked. You got to be kind of, with their age, you got to be kind of selective on which episodes you,
Yep.
you show. But, The Office, my kids can quote a little bit of Seinfeld now, which I think is awesome because I loved Seinfeld back in the day. And so, yeah, probably more old school stuff than new school stuff. What are you
You,
watching now, Trey? What do you got a
well,
recommendation for me?
I absolutely loved Landman, and I'm waiting for the next season to come out. That was fantastic. Um, Yellowstone, that type of stuff I really like. My wife got on this kick for a while. She was watching like the Snapped, watching wives kill husbands, and I was getting really kind of worried about this, that maybe she was taking notes. But now she's gotten into where she watches a lot of these border and caught at the border and stuff like this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it shows the border agents, going through cars and doesn't sound very good, but I've watched a lot of it and it's kind of interesting to see how
Yeah.
people are trying to smuggle things in and what they smuggle in. And so it's kind of, I don't know, boring TV, but it's something that's on and I watch a lot of.
Yeah.
Um, Favorite wrestling shoe of all time.
Oh man, and I know you ask that a lot on your podcast, and you get a lot of answers. And I know you're a big shoe guy. For me, I'm just old school, man. I've worn Asics, split sole, split second shoes for as long as I can remember. I've been wearing the same pair of wrestling shoes in practice for a decade plus, right? Like I'm a big guy. I'm coaching girls wrestling. I'm not putting a lot of miles on my shoes on the mat other than really, walking around and demonstrating things here and there. But um, yeah, I feel like there's kind of two different camps. You get the people that love wrestling shoes and just collect them and buy them and have 15 pairs, and you get the other people whose shoes are covered in mat tape or athletic
Yep.
tape, and they're held together. I'm in the latter group there, so just yeah, not a shoe guy.
I wore one pair from my junior year of high school till my college senior year.
Yeah.
And I loved those shoes and I accidentally threw them away. They were I don't know if you remember, they were blue, all leather, true split sole, nothing in the middle, had the big white padding on the back, Asics. I think they
Okay.
were Dan Gable Ultra somethings
Yeah.
at the time. You can't find them now, but I love those shoes. And now maybe that's it. I'm searching for the shoe because
It's
I
looking
get,
for
and then every pair of shoe I seem to buy, I end up giving them to somebody that walks in the room that doesn't have a pair of shoes. So
yeah.
it seems
Yep.
like I can't win there. My wife gets upset, but I do love shoes. So, um, is there a point in your coaching career that maybe changed the way you think about things or the way you do things?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple different points. So similar to you, I coached as an assistant coach on the boys level for years, for 10 plus years. First at Cardinal of Eldon. I was down at Cardinal of Eldon for 5 years as an assistant in their boys program with Tom Lemansky. And then when we moved up to the corridor area and I got a job at Solon, started, coaching as an assistant coach here at Solon. But the year that I think it'd be 2018, 2019. I work as the at-risk coordinator at Solon High School, but we had our high school principal left at like June. He just accepted a different position. So we had a vacancy in June, which is pretty late to be hiring a principal. So I spent a year as interim principal. And the year I was interim principal, it really took me away from being able to coach the boys wrestling team because that job was just pretty intensive. But Blake Williams, who was the boys coach, we had two girls that wrestled on the boys team, asked if I would take the take the girls to Waverly for the state tournament, along with Zach Beshika, who's now the head coach at Prairie. He was an assistant coach at Solon at the time as well. And so he and I did that. And that was just an altering experience of being around the girls, not only the Solon girls, but all the girls. And it really was just, I would say it was kind of rejuvenating. At that point, I had coached boys wrestling for 10 plus years. And I just felt rejuvenated and excited. And then, we started the youth club. We were trying to recruit girls in the fall of 2020 and, October, November, or no, sorry, 2021. Sorry, this would have been 2020 when I'm 1 year off here, but, or I guess in the fall of 2020, we were trying to recruit girls. We're practicing in masks, limited contact.
Yep.
Um, but we're able to kind of get that off the ground. Um, and then another thing, the IWCOA conference, I think this was 2 or 3 years ago. Um, they brought in Bono and Reader
Yeah.
uh, from Wisconsin, and just kind of listening to some of the stuff that they do as far as communicating with wrestlers. Like, and I kind of took some of that to heart. My girls have really appreciated it. Like, so one thing I do is, I always have a written practice plan, but I email that out to them every day by 2:30. And it's not highly detailed on everything I'm going to talk about, but it kind of goes through an outline so that when they get to practice, they have an understanding what practice is going to look like, what each session is going to be, or each portion of practice, what we're going to be working on. A lot of times I'll link, videos. I'll go on YouTube. I'll find something that demonstrates it. So, and so the practice plan that gets emailed will have a live link to them. So if they want to watch a 3 minute clip on the technique we're going to be teaching, they can do that. Now, I don't think all of them do that, but when I stepped down as head coach, that was one of the first things that they said was, "Hey, can you make sure the new coach sends practice plans?" And it's like, yeah, I can't guarantee that, but I can recommend it. But just kind of that communication with wrestlers and that, the era of, what are we doing next, coach? Well, you're going to find out. You can still do that, but I just think I don't know if it's generationally or if it's just on the girls' side, they're just very appreciative to kind of have a general idea of what we're going to be doing. So those would kind of be two things that stand out for me. Obviously, the first one much larger than the second. One is just kind of a transformation. The second was just a little addition that I picked up on that I thought, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Now I got to ask you because I used to write practice plans all the time. Not once in my lifetime have I ever gotten through one of my written practice plans. Have you ever gotten exactly done what you wanted to get done that you didn't veer off somewhere else?
No, no, I'm always like, oh man, what are we going to do when we get through this? What if there's extra time? There's never been extra time. And most of the time, whatever something is getting copied and pasted into the next day's practice plan. That's
Yep.
almost universally something is getting copied and pasted in. Sometimes two things. And sometimes we deviate, right? It's not the practice plan is never set in stone.
Yep.
If something comes up, or I have, one of my assistant coaches brings up a good point. It's like, okay, let's well, okay, then I'll ask my coach, hey, why don't you show this? We'll bring everybody in, you demonstrate this, and we were going to work on chicken wing here, but now we're going to work on, something else. We're working on a Easton tilt or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I've never made it through one, but I like the philosophy. I think I might give I like the idea that you're sending out a link of maybe something that you plan on showing. So the ones that really are into it are going to look at that and maybe already have an idea. I think you can
Yep.
learn a lot from that. Um, the coach's phrase, maybe it's something you say, or a lot of times I ask this, hey, what's that one thing you hear in the back of your head that your coach always says? So this could either be something that you say all the time, or this could be something that maybe one of your coaches said all the time.
Oh man. Uh one thing that I remember, I coached when I grew up. I wrestled. I'm from Solon originally, and then left for about 15 years, and then moved back to the corridor area and got a job again at Solon. But I was coached Ed Haydenfeld, who Aaron Haydenfeld is the current boys coach at Solon. His dad was the longtime assistant coach, and I grew up. I was in the same class as his oldest son Adam, who was a good wrestler here at Solon, and he's the head football coach at Grinnell now. But Ed Haydenfeld, coached me from youth on, and I just remember, like, I'd be in the middle of a match, it'd be the end of a period, and I'd just look over at my corner, to get some instructions, and he would just look at me, shrug, and just be like, wrestle. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I thought I was,
That's a good idea.
I know what he meant though, like, right?
Yep.
Like, get out of your head, quit thinking out there, just let it go and go. Like, sometimes I think, and I tend to be a cerebral person that way, and I probably think too much when I'm competing, and I need to just, when I competed, I haven't, wrestled in years, uh, to just let it go and just go out and do, and just take off some of that pressure and just wrestle. Um, yeah, to my girls, um, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ones. One that we talk about a lot, just in practice, we don't really talk about it necessarily at meets, is just that process of getting better, right? Like, we've got to get better. And I coached a junior high kid at Cardinal one time, an athletic seventh. This was at a seventh grade level. I coached junior high and high school there, and he started athletic seventh grade. He started the season 7-1, and he finished the season 8-8. So he went 7-1, and then he went 1-7. And basically what it was to start the season, he was more athletic than the kids he was wrestling. He was able to just physically kind of beat them and be faster, but he didn't really work on a lot of technique in the room. He didn't really try to get better. And these same kids that he was beating early in the season, all of a sudden could beat him later in the season because, they had a sprawl and they had a cross face and they could run a chicken wing and they knew how to defend a half. And um, so, just kind of out of that, that kind of, you either learn how to wrestle or you learn how to lose, because you're going to do one or the other, right?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
if you're not working to get better, other people are, right? And I think girls wrestling is has shown that more than any other. I mean, just, there's girls that are just, you can just see the improvement year after, and you just know that they're working, like that they're putting in all that time um, on their craft. And so, yeah, that's one that we kind of just talk about in practice. It's not a rah-rah speech before a meet or anything, but hey, we got to,
That's our it's
lock
good
in,
stuff though.
learn how to wrestle, learn how to lose. One or
Yeah.
the
No,
other.
that's
One of
good.
them's going to
That
happen.
I think that's great stuff. I like it because you're right. If there's a lot of talented kids that don't work
Yeah.
at their craft, and next thing you know, they're they're losing more than they're winning. Um, Again, you said you use YouTube a lot, and this question kind of again for coaches or athletes, it's I got to word it a little bit differently. Who's someone that you would tell your girls to watch on YouTube?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I use a lot of different people, and I jump around. If I'm sending a clip, my main criteria is one, it's got to be 3 minutes or less typically for the girls. Like
Mhm.
there's some great 12-minute clips out there that where I glean a lot of information, but I think a lot of my girls are, watching this at lunch or during, passing time or when they're, before a class starts. And I think sometimes they're like, oh, here's a video link. They click on it like 12 minutes and they just they just close the
I'm
tab.
done.
So yeah, I don't know, one that sticks. I like a lot of Ben Askren stuff. I know Ben's not making content right now, obviously, but um, Ben stuff, anything I can find with Nate Carr. I'm an Iowa State alum, so I'm a big Nate Carr guy.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, just his energy and just the way he wrestles is something I like. And um, yeah, and then I try whenever I can find female clinicians and technicians that I think are really good. I'll use them too. Like it's whatever I can find really. But it doesn't always have to be male or female for me. Like that's not
Yeah.
it's good wrestling is good wrestling, right? If I think
Yep.
if I think they can demonstrate the technique and if I think they can, explain and talk through the points, I don't care if it's a male or female wrestler. It doesn't matter to me.
So if I just gave you a promotion and you got to be the head of the NFHS rules committee and you could change one thing about wrestling, change a rule or make a rule, what rule would you make?
Yeah. There's always stuff stalling wise. You can always, on either side of that. I still think, I like a 3-point takedown. I'm in favor of a 3-point takedown, but I'm probably also in favor of a 3-point reversal. Um, if we're awarding 3 points for going from a neutral position to a dominant position, why wouldn't we reward 3 points for going from a submissive position to a dominant
Yep.
position? But that's not a huge sticking point for me. But um, yeah, that's probably it. And then I'm okay with I think our officiating has been overall pretty good. Um, and I like that early season officials are using like some coaching opportunities out there to help girls, giving them reminders and making sure that they're lining up right and knees behind the line, hands in front. And I'm for that, for that first week or two. I sometimes I'll see that later on in the season. It's like, no, no, no,
Right.
no, that's a caution. Like we're 25 matches into this. That's a caution. Um, and different things that way. But yeah, I don't have a lot of huge changes. I know a push out rule. What do you think about a push out rule, Troy?
See, I was asking going to ask you that because that's probably the one that comes out the most, and I like the idea. I really do, because I liked how stalling was called at the beginning of this year. That if
Mhm.
you were walking off the mat backwards, you're probably getting called, or if you were straight arm pushing somebody off, you were probably
You're
getting
getting
called.
called. Yeah.
But if there wasn't significant action on the side on the going out of bounds, there was a call. And then it seemed about Christmas time that stopped, and I don't know why, because I know it was coming back. And I actually got two warnings this year, not because I was arguing a call. I was arguing actually after the match that they need to make that call, and
Nice.
I might have overstepped slightly, but
Did you
that's all
did
right.
you go to the table or did you holler from the
Oh no,
corner?
it was after the match,
Oh, after match. Okay. Yeah.
in passing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all right. I
They
still
I
got my
find
I
officials
got my
don't
point
love
across.
officials don't like comments during that time either very much
Yeah.
during the passing time.
Yes, no, they didn't appreciate my comments, but I will tell you what, I did have one call me afterwards, and we had probably a half hour discussion on it, and he said, "You were absolutely right. I don't know why we're not calling this." Because I said the thing that I'm worried about, I don't care as long as it's called consistently, but when my kids get to regionals and it hasn't been called here in
Yeah.
Northwest Iowa, and now we're at the regional and state tournament and it's called, and they're like, "What do you mean? I have done this all year
Yeah.
long." That's where it worries me.
Sure.
But two final questions. One, since school has started and you're back in school, I'm going to make you answer a question. Wrestling has taught me to blank.
Oh man. I think wrestling has taught me to be just more understanding, I think. Especially the coaching side of wrestling. just, getting to have some of those conversations with athletes and realizing that there's no one set model for, the right style of coaching for any particular athlete, and that everybody processes both wrestling curriculum and wrestling emotions differently, and that we just need to be more understanding of that. And I think it's sometimes hard as a coach to always realize what athletes are going through mentally, and it varies so much from athlete to athlete. But just trying to be understanding, trying to be more empathetic um, to that, I think is really good. I think it's really helped me grow as a total person, probably as a coach, an educator, a father, a husband. I think all of those facets of my life have improved from being involved in wrestling.
And then the last thing I always do a final thoughts, profound statements from the coach that's stepping down into the middle school, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man, do I use this to try to recruit a new coach in the
You,
Solon? No,
you
I
can.
I think here's what I would say. This would be, I'm assuming most of the people that are listening to your podcast are similar to you or similar to me, that are either involved in girls wrestling, have been involved in girls wrestling, or are thinking about getting involved in girls wrestling. And I can tell you that being involved in girls wrestling is one of the most rewarding things that I have done personally or professionally. Um, in my life, and that my stepping down has nothing to do with being burned out on girls wrestling or wanting to do anything different. It's just a switch in a role. And I would encourage anyone that's on the fence of, should I get involved? I don't know, I'm not sure I'm going to like it. I haven't met many coaches or officials or anyone that's been involved with girls wrestling in Iowa that hasn't had anything but a tremendous experience and wonderful things to say about it, myself included. And I know, Troy, obviously you're doing a podcast on Iowa girls wrestling. So,
Yep.
uh, it's obviously moved you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of something better to do with my time.
Yep.
So no, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been fun getting to know you a little bit better. I know
Yeah.
I knew you before, but it's fun to get to know you better. Um, Good luck finding that next coach. So hopefully you don't have to put on another hat, be the head coach and
Yeah.
the middle school coach.
And
But
if anybody's interested, they can reach out to me. My email address is on the Solon website, our AD. It's a great place to coach, a wonderful culture. We've got a lot of wonderful people involved, willing to lend a hand to whatever direction the next head coach wants to take our Solon girls program.
awesome. Well, thank you much.
All right. Thanks.